Finally, after doing everything that I needed to do in order to make my way into Nava, I spent the day exploring the city until, alas, it starts to get dark. I have no coat yet, but I recall seeing a sign which is probably for an inn close to the entrance. I head on there and speak to the lethargic innkeeper who offers me a room for a mere 2 pieces of glowstone. I try to salvage whatever I can from the remaining of the day by exploring the inn. Upstairs is a lovely common room filled with life and energy. Over the chatter I hear a clear and distinct voice, so naturally I need to follow. There's a bard dramatically recounting some sort of fairy tale. I sit down on an empty chair and listen to her. Before me, a busy table in use by the local crowd with whom I sit. In these moments, I really feel like a traveler on the road, sitting at a popular spot enjoying the atmosphere. But why? And furthermore, why is it that when I'm playing Skyrim, I never had that same feeling in a tavern listening to a bard playing The Dragonborn Comes? Usually, I simply walk past the common room to sleep in my bed and then head to my next task. If I am in the common room, it's only to solicit the barkeep for any new quests. Now, while I was pondering this, it did occur to me that it might actually just be me and the particular way that I played Skyrim. But even so, the question still stands. How did Eastshade manage to elicit my immersion so significantly more than Skyrim did? And I think the reason for this is that Eastshade, as opposed to the vast majority of other games, is designed inherently in a manner where the only way to enjoy the game is to immerse yourself in it. Now, Skyrim is an immersive game, there's no doubt about that. I was definitely immersed in tranquility while I was traversing the mountains at night, the shimmering aurora looming over me. And yet Skyrim so often descends into the mindless grinding, clearing dungeons, climb levels, gather crafting materials, craft just to make money, etc. The game gives the player the option of immersing themselves every now and then, but Eastshade beckons the player to be immersed all of the time, or else the player will simply lose interest. Eastshade, even despite its light crafting mechanics, strips out all of the grind and hustle and beckons the player to simply stay and enjoy the view. Eastshade is an open-world quasi-RPG, meaning that like Skyrim, it is littered with quests to complete everywhere. Unlike Skyrim though, rarely does this game ask the player to be interested in the quest, nor is the game itself even interested in whether the player completes the quest or not. In Skyrim, every quest has a marker showing you where to go in order to progress, and within the game there even lies a spell that paths out for you exactly how to get there. Eastshade, on the other hand, has no quest markers and doesn't even have a map unless you specifically choose to acquire one, which is only a possibility in the mid-game. In one particular Eastshade quest, an NPC gives the player a riddle. If the player solves the riddle, they will know what to paint and complete the quest, and otherwise the quest will remain incomplete. There is no in-game hints for this, save for the riddle itself. The vast majority of Eastshade quests are simply to find something and paint it. It's like a typical fetch quest, except for that the player has a bit of agency in what is being fetched, and can even take a little bit of pride in its production. There is no skill mechanics involved in the entire game, and the only challenge the game throws at the player involve exploration, either by physically moving around the world, or by gathering information from NPCs and in-game books. As a consequence of this, if you don't enjoy exploring around the world, you will not enjoy the game. In other words, the only way to enjoy Eastshade is to immerse yourself in it. Eastshade is a game that tells the player, if you're unable to immerse, then this game is simply not for you. There are very, very few games that leave the player nothing to do except for be immersed in it, and as far as I can tell, there are none that do it anywhere near as well as Eastshade. Now take Dear Esther as an example. The game that asks you to explore an island while the protagonist narrates. This game asks 2 things of you. Firstly, to be interested in the unraveling story, and then to be immersed in the island world. Now, there is a lot of discussion online about whether Dear Esther is actually even a game or not, and I think that this discussion wouldn't exist if many people didn't find the game fun in the way that games are traditionally fun. Instead, the appeal of Dear Esther seems to me to be the story aspect, meaning that the joy of the game is more akin to the joy of watching a video rather than playing a game. As far as I can tell, no players seem to find joy in immersing themselves, despite there being even less to do in Dear Esther than there is in Eastshade. This is all to say that Eastshade understands something that Dear Esther doesn't, and that's that it's not enough to simply put your player in a pretty world and ask them to have joy just from being in it. I can go and explore a forest near me in real life, or watch wonderful hikes on YouTube to accomplish the same effects. I don't need a video game. How Eastshade brilliantly keeps the player interested and continuously immersed is through its blending of meticulously handcrafted unique environments and its quests. I would argue that without the questing system, Eastshade would simply end up like Dear Esther, with players not necessarily finding it to be fun, even if maybe some of them do find it to be engrossing. The game itself seems to understand this, since the very first thing that it does is acclimate the player to completing quests by trapping the player in the hold of a ship and not letting them continue until they've completed the basic fetch quest. Then, after the very brief introductory sequence is over, the very next thing it does is present the player with the overarching main quest through a very brief auditory flashback. This is especially striking, since one would have thought that a game about exploring environments would start the player off in a high spot, giving them a taste of what's to come with exquisite views. Funnily enough, Skyrim actually did do this, although one of the most common criticisms of Skyrim is that the opening takes too long to get to the point where you see those beautiful views. Eastshade never asks the player to simply explore and be amazed at what they see, nor does it bribe the player to complete its quests. Rather, it asks the player to quest just so that they can explore and be amazed all the while. Even when the game does award you with its currency, glowstones, those are only used for further exploration, like a toll to cross a bridge, a coat needed to explore at night, a bicycle to explore in style, a teapot to brew teas that put filters on the world, and the likes. In Eastshade, the joy of the quest is discovery and immersion of the world through the task itself. This is intrinsic motivation. In contrast, Skyrim's more loaded system brings extrinsic motivation by offering XP, loot, money, and etc. And Dear Esther does not offer any motivation at all, save for the continuation of the story, as said earlier, like watching a video. Now don't get me wrong, there are a number of small irks that plague Eastshade away from immersion. The main one being that the world seemingly revolves around the protagonist rather than having them just be a leaf in the wind, but also with the odd and repetitive NPC behaviors, small village and city scale, use of busy chatter sounds rather than natural chit-chat, and not to mention that you can just take anything from anywhere and no one seems to mind. But all of that just provides all the more testament as to how well Eastshade's blending of meticulously handcrafted unique environments and its questing system makes it the most immersive game that I personally have ever played.